Yeah.
Welcome to another Unapologetic Women Share. As you can tell, we are loving our life today. Sherry, will you please introduce our guest?
I am so happy to. Everybody meet Liza Lomax, who is she works with, I mean, this is like so perfect for this whole topic because she's all about working with women to unlock their full potential and to empower them to be high achieving. So she works with a holistic approach, which is all about, I love that. And she's looking at the mind body relationship. And boy, that's going to be juicy because that is one of the areas that I think women apologize so much for in some subtle way or not so subtle way about their body and size and their, how they think about their external being. So, but Liza's all about helping women to really get into that core piece of them of experiencing genuine happiness in all aspects of life. So she's a transformational woman that is unapologetic, I know. And so yes. Liza, welcome to our fun, silly group and this conversation. And so, here you are, you're a love your body coach.
Yes.
And
yes.
so that brings up for me, like, how do you address that? Because I think maybe women don't say, I'm sorry about, carrying this extra weight. And yet they feel less than when they're carrying extra weight. Mm-hmm. And so I think that kind of sets up this whole mindset of not being good enough.
Yes.
Right. Because of that. So that's really where I want to start this conversation.
Okay.
That's excellent. Because whether we realize it or not, we do judge ourselves.
Oh gosh.
Yes. I know we like to say we don't, but we do. So if we're judging ourselves, we're apologizing somehow.
Yep.
And I have a saying, so I do a talk called Making the Mirror Your Friend, where I give you tools and tips and techniques and things like that to how do you make the mirror your friend. And one of the things I say in there is that when you talk negatively to yourself, when you talk bad about yourself, when you are saying mean things to yourself, you're rejecting yourself. You're giving yourself this message that I don't like you as you are, and I will never like you until you change, which is really harsh on ourselves. And this is a conditioning that happens at a very young age. It usually starts by the age of 7, where, we're told that something about us is not right and we have to change it or we have to fix it because, we're broken. Which is bullshit. We're not broken. We don't need to be fixed. What needs to change is all the stories and the habits and the behaviors that we've taken on from our environment, from society, from our parents, all the things. And see, I've seen toddlers get on scales and say, "Mommy, I'm fat." So it's like, where are they learning that from?
Yeah.
So it's a continuous cycle. So if you have children, anybody who's watching this that has children, or anybody on this call that has children, it's like being very mindful of how you treat yourself, because it reflects down generational. So generation after generation after generation, we take on these habits and these behaviors and these stories we tell ourselves. And like a lot of the women I work with had their moms take them to Weight Watchers when they were 12 and 14. Like there's something wrong with you, or don't eat that, or you can't eat this. And most people come from 2 different types of backgrounds. And this is where our disordered relationship with food comes into play, is because most people come from 2 different types of backgrounds, where one, you came from a place of abundance, where food was always available. You could have whatever you wanted, however much you wanted, anytime you wanted. Okay. So if you already had kind of a disordered relationship, you're like, well, I can just eat whatever I want, whenever I want. Most people came from a place of lack or scarcity, where you didn't know where your next meal was coming from. You had to get to the dinner table, or you didn't get any food, or you had to sit at the dinner table and eat all your food because you were told somewhere in the world there were starving children.
Yeah.
Yes, we're all told this. And if you didn't eat your food, you were punished and sent to your room. And that's where eating disorders come into play. So there's a fine line between disordered eating, disordered relationship, and eating disorder. So there's no, and we use food to fill our body so we don't feel an emotion. We learn this at a very young age. So food is a huge topic for a lot of people. Because if you're happy, you get food. If you're sad, you get food. Oh, you got an A on your report card. Let's go celebrate with ice cream. Oh, you broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Oh, let's get some ice cream. So again, happy, you get rewarded. Sad, you get rewarded. So it's got to mess up with your psyche. And this happens a lot in a generation after generation after generation. And food is the most addictive thing that we have in our lives. We use
Yeah.
food for everything, to cope, to numb, to suppress, to celebrate, to revere, to comfort ourselves, to rejection, all the things. So it's no wonder that a lot of us have a very disordered relationship with food, which in turn is the mind-body connection, the relationship we have with our bodies. So it's really fascinating and really interesting how food is great. Yes, we need food to survive. We need food as fuel, but yet we use food to cope, to numb, to suppress, to depress, to do all the things, to suppress our emotions, to push them down so we don't feel them. And really all emotion, and we all struggle with some form of emotional eating too. And really all emotional eating is a symptom of something that somebody doesn't want to have a heart-to-heart, face-to-face conversation about. That's all that is. And
Yeah.
if you've been on the yo-yo diet train going round and around and around, and you have a disordered relationship with food, that's the weight. You'll lose some, you'll gain some, you'll lose some, you gain some. If you stayed on that train for so long, the weight is just a manifestation of what that person doesn't want to deal with under the surface.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yesterday, it's so interesting that you say that. Yesterday, I was like happy, doing the happy dance, loving life. I mean, having a great day. And I thought, I'm gonna make some bread because I love to create in the kitchen. And so I was making bread dough and the yeast. I love the way the yeast smells. I love the way it smells on my kitchen, which made me think of my grandmother, which made me think, that it goes on and on and on. And we have like all of the senses come together with food, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many. Yes, there's, you get reminded of something, of a smell, or it's like, or ooh, you get to go to a birthday party and celebrate. You get cupcakes and cake, and like your diet or whatever is out the window because you're celebrating. But then what happens after that? You go home and you start punishing yourself, and you start talking negative about yourself and putting yourself down. This is a continuous cycle for a lot of people, whether you consciously or unconsciously or consciously are aware of it.
or else I used to go into eating storms. Okay, I did a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna go home and oh well, finish the whole box of cookies
Yeah,
because I'll
yeah,
start tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I didn't do it. Well, I'll get to it. This is an outrageously potent conversation. I've been through all of it. Been anorexic,
me
bulimic,
too. Yes.
and fat, and then I just finally got it when, just in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I eat what I want and I don't eat any more than I want, and I can look at it and but I used to wonder, how can a plate of food sitting on the table, or even in my mind about sitting on, how can it run my life?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just a plate of food. What else is going on? But so,
Yes. Yes.
it's all of those things, and what women are designed, or you got to be in a certain place, and you've got to be a woman, a girl or whatever.
Mhm.
And there's another thing about this power that women have, this, and I call it eros because it's this energy. It's not just sexual, it's energy. And we shut it down because we don't want to be attacked, because when that's coming out, everybody's going, woohoo. But then, I don't know, you're talking about something, there's so many gradients inside of it, and your work is really profound. How do you start working through it, because I think all women, or most women, have something like this, because a lot of times we're diminishing our power,
Yes.
because we just, we're not supposed to be that way, and we'll get, shamed if we're not
Mhm.
nice.
Because
So
it's
I
just
don't know, I'm just in agreement with you. So go, go, go,
yeah.
go, girl, talk.
It's just it's an old paradigm way of thinking, and it's like it's passed down from generation to generation to generation. And me personally, because I have my own transformational story as to why I do what I do. So I've been 100 pounds and I've been over 300 pounds. Okay. And it never mattered where I was on the scale, no pun intended. I was still unhappy with who I saw in the mirror. So I knew that it had nothing to do with the weight. It had to do with what I was not dealing with inside. Yes. It's
Wow.
always an inside out job. Everything that we need and that we desire and that we want to um, change and shift, it all starts inside of us. And so when I had that light bulb moment that I'm like, oh, I have to go in and do the inner work, I have to go in and do that. I was like, I was very resistant at first, but I knew that if I didn't change those beliefs, because I would go to the grocery store, buy a bunch of food, and then I would come home and I would eat it all. Or I would go to like the drive-throughs, and then I would sit there in the parking lot and just shovel it in. Or I would hide food in the closet. I would hide food everywhere. Like, so anytime I felt something or anytime I had something happen or going on, I would go to food. That was my go-to, and that's a lot of people's go-to. But I knew that if I didn't take care of what was going on underneath the surface, that I wouldn't be the person I was today, and I wouldn't have that the love for my body. Like I look at myself in the mirror now and I love myself. I look at myself naked and I love myself. And that took me a really long time to get to that point. And the moment that I did look at myself in the mirror and love what I saw, I just was in awe. And then so I knew that everything that needed to change was the inside. And as much as we want to change the outside appearance, if you want to change the outside appearance, that's great, that's fine, but you got to do the inner work first in order for the outside to change. Because we'll change and we'll change and we'll change and we'll change and we'll change on the outside, and then we'll find something else to fixate on, and then we'll find something else to fixate on, and we'll lose the weight, and then we'll gain the weight, and then we'll lose the weight, and then we'll gain the weight, and it's this never-ending cycle, trying to change the outside, because we're conditioned to believe that we have to look and dress and say and act and do all these different ways. And we learn this in our childhood between the ages of 8 and 10. And somewhere in between those ages of 8 and 10, we are told we're not good enough. Not maybe consciously. Some of us were told that consciously, but a lot of us were told unconsciously that we're not good enough. So we stay on this never-ending cycle, going around and round and round, trying to change ourselves for everyone else or change our outside appearance. And it's all bullshit. It's all
Yes.
bullshit.
It's about, people think that they do the physical work, meaning the diets or
Yes.
what the physical,
Yes.
the workout, but
Yeah.
it's really about the metaphysical. It's really about going inside. So people
Yes.
exhaust themselves with the physical aspect of whatever journey they're on, food, which is what we're talking about today, your weight, your body image. And then they neglect the metaphysical, maybe because they don't know it, understand it, or think it's too much work.
Right.
Say a
And
little
it's
bit more
not.
about that, Nancy.
Yeah.
Well, the
Please.
physical is like if someone says, "Oh, I'm really overweight and I need to do something about this," and so you go to the gym and you start working out. This is what everybody does because that's what
Sure.
all the experts tell us. And or you start eating differently. That's the physical, but the metaphysical is of the mind, the non-physical, and
Okay.
that's what metaphysical is. It's like not physical. So it's anything that you're thinking about, your beliefs,
Got it. Okay.
what's coming up for you.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I tell people this all the time when I'm talking to them or when I'm coaching with them and when they finally get it, it's like in order for if what you truly desire is to change the outside, if you what you truly desire is to lose the weight, okay, for whatever reasons, you have to deal with the emotional baggage, the mental baggage, the spiritual baggage, because a lot of us were spiritually traumatized, and the psychological baggage that we hold on to. Once you can release those, reframe those beliefs, habits, stories, things that trigger us, all the things, the physical weight will drop off. It
And
has
you know what?
happened for me. It has happened for
Yeah.
numerous, countless people that I've worked with.
And
It
you know
just,
what I think is so fantastic about this? You go on any nutrition program, whether
yeah,
it's an MLM or whether, you're
yep,
working with a coach or whatever. Once you start changing your eating habits and you start feeling better in the mind, because you will when you start
mhm,
eating healthier,
mhm,
then you start kind of you kind of automatically slide into the metaphysical part of it, the mindset work of it, because you feel so good. You want more of that, and when you want more of that, I love the way the law of attraction just brings you more of that, and you you're so aware of that better feeling existence within you that you want more, and so you're seeking that. And that's why people are like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to work with a coach now and I'm going to do this, because we want more, we want to expand, even if we can't define it or explain it to ourselves or to someone else. That's where that track goes. And I really love that. It a lot of times, I don't know the percentage wise, but I'll just say, I'm going to say like 90%, maybe more. I think that metaphysical journey starts with changing your eating habits.
yeah. Well, it 80% of weight loss is your nutrition. Okay, so what are you fueling your body with? Okay, that's
Mhm.
80%. Only 20% is exercise.
Yeah.
But yet people are killing themselves working out at the gym 2, 3 hours, whatever, going to the gym 5, 7, 8 days a week, whatever, just trying to do the things. But however, the main encompassing thing that surrounds all of that is here,
Your mind, right? How you
is your
see the thing.
mind. So
Yeah.
if you're not in the right headspace,
Mhm.
you can keep, like, you'll have success. You can keep doing the diets and doing the whatevers and the programs and having the best program and having the best exercise program, the best nutrition program and all the things. But if you already have a disordered relationship with food, if you're already a yo-yo dieter, if you're already an emotional eater, if you already have these issues, these struggles, these challenges, and your mind isn't there, you might have success, but eventually all that stuff's going to come back
Yeah.
because you haven't dealt with it.
Do you know, this reminds me of a time I was really lean. I was in my 30s. I was working hard and I was under stress for a lot of things, but also, you got to shut up and do what you're told. And I would go into eating storms. And I remember one day I went out to Marie Callender's, bought a chocolate meringue pie, and I thought, what am I doing? I'm going to stay conscious while I do it.
Mhm.
But I couldn't stop. I was like, and so I said, okay. So I put the thing down and sat on the floor and ate it with very slowly with my fingers, asking, now what am I doing this? And it became so ridiculous what I was doing, but I hadn't been able to articulate. Otherwise, I would just eat it, and pretend like I
Yeah.
didn't eat it, and then I didn't eat it, and why am I gaining weight?
Right.
But I got very slow, and I just said, well, let me just, I enjoyed it, but I didn't eat the whole thing. I began to slow down and go, what am I doing? I don't know, and I can't stop. So let me slow down and see what's going on here. And
Yes.
this was, what is it, 30 years ago, 35, 40 years. And it's as vivid as I'm talking now. And it seemed to
Yeah.
be the beginning of a shift from my being able to start controlling this addiction, you know? Anyway, so is
You,
that
you know,
something you talk, pardon me?
Donna, I was going to say too that I think with you know, from a very young age, you've been in theater, movies, TV. That had to play a big part in your weight mindset as well, because
Oh, you
you
had to
know,
be thin. And if I weren't
yeah.
thin, and then if
Mhm.
I was really thin, you know, I'd go to fancy dinners and I'd take a handful of raw almonds and that's what I'd have. I mean, it was stupid. But I also had a thing called candidiasis in my body that I'd had since a child and I was addicted, you know. So that was another thing that was feeding it. Still, but still it was the emotional stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and
I
you had
did.
to be thin, and if you're not thin, then
Yep.
your whole value is gone and it's just
Yep.
a complete push me pull you, and there was almost no win except when I got a job and then I was happy.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I actually did. We have a lot in common. I did 15 years of theater.
you did?
So yes,
What kind of
yes. Well,
theater? Was it musical, regular? What else?
musical, regular, all of it. Yes. Well, hello,
Where?
my name's Liza, like Manelli.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Was it
So
was it
Like
yeah,
here
Liza.
in Los Angeles? Where was it?
it was kind of everywhere. I did theater everywhere. Yeah, it was wherever I was. I've been in a couple movies and things like that, just bit parts and things like that. But yeah, so I mean it was like you had to have this persona, like had to put on a mask and play a role and play a part, which
Yeah.
for me, like it actually got me out of my shell. However, it taught me how to put on a mask and play a role and play a part. And so I did that for the longest time in my life of just playing a role. Like, who do you want me to be today? I'll just play this person. I'll just do this. And I was actually told that if I didn't do this certain thing over here, I wouldn't be successful. Or if I didn't do this over here, I wouldn't be successful. You know, so I mean, I was an overachiever and a people pleaser and a perfectionist, like you wouldn't believe. And so those are the people, those are the people that I work with, are the people pleasers, the perfectionists, the overachievers, you know, that were stuck in this cycle of you have to look and dress and say and act and do all these different ways.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because in my family of growth, and then when, you know, in my other world as I grew into the only place where I was allowed to feel my feelings was in on stage. So that
Yes.
was the only place that I could articulate them so they felt the other rest of the time I was just trying to be nice and smile and be okay. But that's when I could really come to life and feel all of my feelings because there was no permission to do that either at home or in the other world that I lived in. Very interesting.
Yes.
And that's all that
Yes.
pressure we get to as women, you know, allow our feelings out and our positions in life and to honor our
Mhm.
power. That's kind of why we're doing this show called Unapologetic Women. We don't have to show up and apologize for us before we walk in the door, you know? Oh, you tripped. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, we do, you know, anyway, so
Liza, I'm
wow.
curious how you um, coach people to be unapologetic, women, I'm going to say women, to be unapologetic when you're, let's say, over 50 and they can't get their 25-year-old body back. How do you coach them or work with them to be unapologetic about where they are, 50s, 60s, 70s, like that?
Very carefully and very slowly. So it's like these things don't
All
change
right.
overnight. These things
Right.
don't change
Yeah.
overnight. You know, you can't lose weight overnight. You can't gain it overnight. You can't gain a habit or lose a habit overnight. We know this. It takes time. And just think of how long you've been on this earth. Think how many years you've been telling yourself the same story and the same, believing the same things and taking on the same habits and all the stuff. So it takes time, you know, it takes, you know, patience with yourself. It takes being consistent and it takes being like, you know what? No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm fucking gonna do this. And I don't care. Like, I need to do this for myself, for my health, for who I am. Like, I'm tired of this shit. don't have very much time left on this earth. I need to do these things, or else I'm just going to keep on staying in the same rat race of emotions and feelings and stories and all the things. And it's like, there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm almost 50. Like, what? Like, how did that happen? Like, I'm seriously,
You're a baby.
I know I'm a baby. I'm a baby, but I'm thinking, I'm like, I feel like I'm still like I'm 25 sometimes. Like, I still
Me
feel
too.
like I'm a teenager sometimes.
Yeah.
Me too.
And I'm like, that's just because that's my personality, and
Yeah.
that's who I am. But I mean, I know I don't want to insult everybody, but I'm like, I think I'm the youngest here,
You
but
are.
I'm like, okay, but it's like, I remember when my parents were this age and I was like, that is so old. And like,
Mhm.
I'm here now and I'm like, I'm just getting started, baby. Like, what the heck? Like, let's go, let's party, let's like enjoy the rest of our lives.
Well, it's proof positive that what you think about, you bring about, and whatever your
Yes.
mindset is going to show up on the outside. So whatever's showing up in your circumstances, it's an indication of what's going on internally. And if you're not willing to look at the internal, the external is going to stay the same.
Yeah, yeah. I have people ask me all the time, they're like, they haven't seen me in a while and they're like, what are you doing? Like, you look amazing. And I'm like, I just keep reverting backwards.
Yes. Yeah, I
Like,
just keep
I'm
loving
just
my life and partying
I'm
like
loving
purple every day.
myself.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
exactly.
Loving myself, going to the mirror every single morning and telling myself how special I am and how important I am and how valuable I am and how worthy I am,
Mm.
and taking care of myself. And like I have my own like routine. Like, first thing in the morning is me time. Like, I go take care of me. I do what's necessary to take care of me. I make myself a priority. And that's what you need to do, is make yourself a priority, and everything else comes second. You are
Mhm.
the most important relationship in your life, and your body is your home, and it's the only home you got.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you don't take care
Thank
of
you
your
for saying
home,
that.
yes, if
yeah.
you don't take care
Yeah,
of your
because I
home, then
yeah,
you don't, do you want to get evicted? No. Like,
yeah. Kicked
And
out of your
that's
own.
the thing too, when people who were raised with specific religious dogmas, and they think
yes.
that the kingdom of heaven is that place that they're going to go to, but they don't realize the kingdom of heaven is right here. It's right here. It's
Yes.
this vessel that you are
Yes.
carrying around. So how are you being in your kingdom? And
Yes.
how are you
Yeah.
being the creator of your kingdom? And boy,
Yes.
when you really start asking
Yeah.
yourself that and understanding that, it gives you a whole different perspective on life.
It does. It does.
I'm really
Yeah.
glad you said that, because I know we need to wrap up. We could have this could go on for a long time, because I think it's such a juicy topic that we've all struggled with, because of so many different factors and cultural factors. And I really love that you really came back to the mirror talk, because
Mhm.
I think that is something very practical everyone can do. Anyone that's
Yep.
listening to this, they
Yep.
can do that. And I know it's done amazing things for my own self. And I think that is because I've struggled with emotional eating and body image, and it goes back to sexual abuse when I was in a very formidable young age. And so it's something but that one thing, it brings me back. And it's like you can't do it superficially. You have to really look into your own eyes and give yourself that time to really connect, and because it's like you really get to see yourself. And so it's
Yes.
just like take out
Yes.
the bullshit and really
Yes.
get into that. And so I think I love this conversation. I think that
Yes.
is
Yes.
so, so important as a place to start. And that's where you fall in love with yourself, and you realize how special you are. And I think that's definitely the underpinning. I think we all agree that's the underpinning of not feeling like you have to apologize for being anything other than your fabulous self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Could I ask you a minute? What is it you do in the morning in the mirror? I don't know about that.
you could do anything in the mirror. You could just, have a conversation with yourself.
Conversation.
Look at yourself in the eyes. So there's actually, and I was just going to kind of do a little caveat to this.
Okay.
And Science tells us that when we are attracted to something or someone, our pupils actually dilate.
Mm.
Okay. So if
Mhm.
we're attracted to someone or someone, our pupils actually dilate. So if you go to the mirror every single morning, now this doesn't happen overnight, okay? This takes time. If you go to the mirror every single morning and you start telling yourself, I love you, I like you, I mean, really, I love you,
Mhm.
and you start to notice your pupils are dilating, that means that you are consciously overriding the fact that you don't love yourself.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're consciously overriding those
The
thoughts.
critical self.
Yes. When you
Mhm.
start to
It's
notice your pupils are dilating.
Mm.
It's
Now
like
that's
you're talking
science.
to your soul.
Hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
so that means that you don't, if your eyes are dilating in the mirror, that means you don't believe that you love yourself when you're telling
You
yourself.
believe that you love yourself.
Do.
You
It
are,
means
Means
you
you
you are,
do
do.
believe. Then you're
yes,
accepting yourself, because then it's okay.
yes,
I was
Like a
misunderstanding.
softening. It's like
yes,
you're, yeah, it's like you really let go of
yes,
the judgment when you,
right.
when you
Yeah.
see, when you look at someone and you just like, oh, they're
You're,
just,
yes,
it's that we
yeah,
want to do that for ourselves,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And you,
But
Donna,
that,
you will know, because when you
yes,
start doing it, you specifically, you, Donna Power, will break out into song.
yeah. You'll
You
Yeah,
do.
you don't hold back. We know that about you.
You'll feel it too. I mean, if you'll feel it in your body, you'll
Yeah.
feel it, energetically, mentally, physically, you'll feel it once you start believing that. But it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, think
Mm.
how long you've been telling yourself these stories.
Yeah.
So just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah.
And you can say anything to yourself in the mirror, like anything. But I
Yeah.
love you is the most powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
I
think when
first
you
learned
that
about this.
connected, when you are that connected to that part of yourself where you really
Yeah.
see yourself,
Yes.
it's not as easy to
Mhm.
then trick yourself and put yourself in a, compartmentalize something away so that then you can go sneak something that you feel like you have to sneak, which is really you're telling yourself you're not good enough, this is the only way you're going to get love, like there's such a different vibration in that kind of relationship with food. And so when this is my experience is practicing that I can't, it's like, oh, wait a minute. No, myself is out. So
Mhm.
I can't put her back in. I can't hide from her anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's made a huge difference.
Yeah, I first learned about it, like, I think it was almost 40 years ago. Louise Hay was, I think,
Mhm.
for the first one to introduce that. And
Mhm.
she would tell people to, look in the mirror and talk to themselves. And I am always amazed, whether it's working with a client or someone I'm just having a conversation with, and I talk about the mirror exercise and they tell me, I can't do that. I could never do that. They're so uncomfortable with that eye contact, with themselves. And honestly, I'm sure we've all been in that place where someone has looked at us, it's somebody really important to us, whether it's a child, a spouse, whoever, and they look at you and you can just feel the love they have for you.
Mm.
Mhm.
And when you really get it, that you can give that to yourself at any moment, that's huge. That's really
Right.
huge.
And it's not that they can't do it, it's that they're choosing not to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
It's
That
not
they,
that we can't do something, it's
yeah,
that we're choosing not to do it
yeah,
for fear, for whatever reasons, miscellaneous, whatever. Most of the time it's fear, or, we're scared. We don't want to, it's like, I can't do that. Well, yes, you can. You're just choosing not to do it. So call
yeah.
those people out on their bullshit in a loving, supportive way.
Yes,
Because I do
exactly.
that, I'm like, I do that in a loving, supportive way. I make people put their big people pants on and tell them to do the fucking work in a
Exactly.
loving, supportive way.
You got this. Yeah, you got this. You've got the power. You're the only one with the power, man.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Liza, thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest
you.
today and sharing this conversation and this topic about being unapologetic with your self-image. I think that's so, so,
Yes.
so important. Thank you.
Thank
And thank you, ladies, all of you. I
Yeah.
love showing
Thank
up every week
you.
with all of you. Thank
What a
you.
great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liza with a Z. Yay.
Thank you.
All right. For all of you watching, leave us some comments. If you have any questions for any of us, let us know in the comments. We will get back to you. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, let us know. We will get back to you. In the meantime, go out and party like purple.
Woo.
Ciao, ciao for now.